First off, I want to say I'm from San Francisco. Is anybody else from the Bay? Very cool. So it may not surprise you that I'm probably going to talk about the part that the app developers play. And I heard in the last panel that humans are the weak link. I would argue that, especially when it comes to developers, they are the strong link. There's quite a few things that developers can do that can lower the vulnerabilities that technology creates, especially when you look at the Internet of Things, all the sheer number of connections coming live. I believe our first defense is going to be app developers. One of Intertrust's flagship products, really quick, just so I can tie it in together before I go into a few things that app developers can do. It provides app security at the source code level. One product is software code protection, which provides code obfuscation, tamper resistance against piracy, and it also prevents reverse engineering. We also have secure key box, which is a cryptographic library that keeps keys completely hidden. So with that said, I'm here to just kind of touch on a few things that app developers can do. The first thing is to really look at your app design. Make sure that the data is being stored securely. So a little story about a well-known coffee company. You may know this coffee company, or your venti lattes there. They were storing usernames, passwords, and emails in clear text. That made it very easy to lift that information. Ways to avoid doing that would be to store your data on the server side. That's extremely popular with the enterprise. Also create a stripped down version of your mobile app or your connected device app, because therefore less information is in the more vulnerable area, and the full-blown version can be accessed online through the laptop. Also, when you look at your passwords, it's really important to store your iOS password in the iOS keychain, and for Android to put it into your internal app data directory. So keep in mind that when you design an app, less is more, and always make sure that you store the data securely. Number two, look at your server-side controls. A lot of back-end APIs wrongly assume that only the app will be connecting to it, when in fact it's the server that the app is connected to, which also needs to have back-end services against malicious attackers. Three, untrusted inputs. So there's lots of ways that a mobile app or connected device can send or receive data, and it's really important that those untrusted inputs are subject to input validation. Skype saw a hack where through an untrusted input you could arbitrarily dial phone numbers, and through weak encryption, that is how people tend to modify inputs and modify environment variables. Reverse engineering is another popular way that people hack apps and access connected devices. It's basically taking a public copy of the app, reverse engineering it in order to access sensitive data and keys, or in order to take intellectual property, launch a counterfeit app under similar branding. Code obfuscation is going to be your best defense against that, to obscure the code. Another thing to look at is broken cryptography. When we encounter broken cryptography, there's usually one of two reasons. One is that they're using a weak encryption algorithm, or they're using a strong encryption algorithm, but it's been implemented wrong. So when you look at a weak encryption algorithm, one way to solve that is to make sure that you're using standards recognized by the security community. Another thing is to use state-of-the-art encryption APIs, and to invest in manual testing, penetration testing, manual analysis, and those kinds of things will make sure that your algorithm is strong. So when it comes to implementing it wrong, the thing that we mostly see is that the keys are stored in the bytecode, so when the app launches, it's extremely easy to decrypt. And never store your keys in the memory or the RAM. Lastly, especially with connected devices, data leakage is a huge concern. It might be one of the most widespread issues with mobile security, as well as privacy invasive behaviors. In a sample test of 350,000 apps, more than half of the iOS apps and more than 2/3 of the Android engaged in data leakage. Those numbers skyrocketed when you include privacy invasive behaviors, such as location tracking, or communicating with ad networks that are then selling the data on the third party. Those numbers were 75% of iOS and 90% of Android. So for app developers and connected devices, the data is highly coveted from many people, including brands and advertisers, as well as government agencies, of course. So yeah, just to recap, we covered app design, making sure that you store your data securely. Server-side controls, make sure that the backend services are hardened. Untrusted inputs, make sure they're subject to input validation. And We also cover reverse engineering, which is best solved through code obfuscation and broken cryptography. So hopefully you found some of that helpful. Again, I'm with White Cryption. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Beth.